Hello bookworms, it's Jade from Bedtime Bookworm and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm bringing you my April reading wrap-up. I apologize if this wrap-up is a little bit late. I am filming this on May 7th. It's finally Friday, finally ready for the weekend. I had wanted to post this video on the 7th, but I'm just not getting around to filming it. But you know what? I'm pregnant and it just takes me longer to do all the things that I want to do. So I apologize, it's a little bit late, but I'm here to tell you about the things that I read in April. I am pretty happy with my April reading. I have 5 things to talk to you guys about today, one of which was a DNF, or a book that I chose not to finish, and I will talk about why when I talk about that book. I had a lot of reading plans for April, and things didn't quite go according to plan, but I still got a decent amount of reading in, so who am I to complain? This is how my ratings panned out for the month of April. It's quite a bit of a spread, especially because I did have that DNF, which is the 2-star read that I had in April. I also had 1 3-star read, 2 4-star reads, and 1 5-star read. And actually all 5 of the things I picked up in the month of April were technically part of a series, but I actually only ended up adding 2 series to my ongoing series list. A couple of the books that I read were sequels, and I had that DNF, which was the first book in I think Duology. It was the first book in a series, but I'm not going to obviously continue the series because I didn't even finish the book. And these are the 5 things that I'm going to be talking about in today's video that I picked up in April. If you're only interested in hearing my thoughts about some of them, feel free to check out the description box. I will have timestamps for when I talk about each book so that you can easily jump to the books that you are interested in. In my monthly wrap-ups, I always go over the books that I read in the order that I read them. So the first book that I picked up in April was Malice by Heather Walters, which is the first book in the Malice duology. This is an adult high fantasy. It's a retelling, actually, a Sleeping Beauty retelling. It's actually a sapphic romance that takes place between Princess Aurora, Sleeping Beauty. That's her name, right? It's between the princess and the evil sorceress character. I did receive an advanced reader copy of this, an e-arc from NetGalley. So thank you to NetGalley and the publishers for a free copy of this in exchange for an honest review. Unfortunately, this is a book that I DNF'd or did not finish. I read 25% of this book before deciding that it wasn't really for me and I didn't want to put in the time to finish it. I do think that there is an audience out there for this book. I know my friend Bethany from Beautifully Bookish Bethany really loved this one. She is more of a romance reader than I am, and I think that might be partly where my lack of enjoyment was coming. Although I will say in the first 25%, I didn't feel like it was very romance heavy, so I'm not really sure about that. But yeah, this one just wasn't working for me. I definitely was really intrigued by the idea of like the evil sorceress character and the princess falling in love, and that romance hadn't really gotten started around the 25% mark. I think we were getting close to them meeting. What I did read in the first 25% was mostly from the evil sorceress character's point of view. There was some interesting world building going on, but there was a lot of like telling and not showing when it comes to the world building, more than what I like in books. And there was also just like a lot of drama going on. So the evil sorceress character, she has kind of a mysterious past, so there's a little bit about that. I did find that interesting, but the way that was being revealed to me, I just wasn't enjoying. But also, she lives in like a house with other girls or other women who can also do magic, but they're like the good kind of magic, and she has like the bad kind of magic. And there was just like a lot of drama between these girls. It reminded me a little bit, even though this is a Sleeping Beauty retelling, it reminded me a little bit of like Cinderella with like the evil stepsisters and how they treated Cinderella badly. These characters weren't related or anything, but that kind of dynamic. And then there was also like a ball or a party happening, and everyone was, you know, getting special dresses made and things like that. And there was a lot of focus on like the dresses and what they were wearing and what they looked like. And I felt like the book was focusing on aspects that I just didn't find interesting. And by the 25% mark, I was just bored and like I didn't care about what was gonna happen anymore. While I wanted to know more about the world and the main character's like mysterious past, I just had already not really enjoyed the way some of those like secrets were being revealed, and I just got to the point where I didn't care. So that is why I decided to put this book down. It just was written in a way that wasn't appealing to me. I have a feeling that people who like to read romance might like it more, but I'm not really sure because, again, there wasn't a lot of romance in the first quarter of the book anyways. But if you want to hear a more positive review about this book, you should definitely go check out my friend Bethany's video. I'll try to link the video where she talks about this book. Okay, the next book that I finished in the month of April was Flamefall by Rosaria Munda. This is the second book in the Aurelian cycle series, which I believe is going to be a trilogy. The first book is Fireborn, which I read last month and absolutely loved. I gave that one 5 stars. And guess what? I gave the sequel, Flamefall, 5 stars as well. I really loved the sequel. This is a YA high fantasy series that has dragons, which is so cool, but it has a lot of like political intrigue. The character work is amazing. I love the 2 main characters and all of their relationships with all of the other characters. I do own this book both as an ebook and as an audiobook. I got them as like a bundle deal on Amazon, and I really enjoyed the audiobook. I didn't listen to the audiobook of the first one, of Fireborn, but I ended up going and purchasing the audiobook of that one as well because I think the narrators are really good, and I think in the future when the third one comes out I might want to reread these books so that they're like fresh, and doing it by audiobook I think would be really great. So I definitely recommend the audiobooks. It's a full cast narration, or at least there's multiple narrators. One of the narrators of the main character is, oh shoot, I'm blanking on his name, but he is the guy who plays young Tom Riddle in the Harry Potter movies. So he's like an actor. So I just really enjoyed the audiobook. Definitely recommend that route. So just a little info about what the first book is about. It's got a little bit of like an Anastasia thing going on. There was a revolution, and the main character, or one of the main characters, is the only surviving member of the royal family, and he ends up in an orphanage where he meets the other main character, and she's an orphan because her family was killed by the other guy's dad, or like by his family basically. But they don't realize that at first. They become best friends at the orphanage, and then like that all happened in the past, and then in the future they are both like in training to become dragon riders. And actually there's a little bit of a competition trope in the first one where they're trying to become leaders of the dragon fleet and stuff, and so they're like involved in the new government. So there's also this layer of the male main character whose family used to be the ruling family is now kind of like converted into the new government, but then there's like questions about, is this new government really better than the old government? And there's just a lot of like political intrigue and exploring of, you know, right and wrong and how to share resources, just all the stuff that I really loved. On top of that, the characters are really great, all of which continues in the second book. There's also a bit of like a found family trope, which I love, and friends to lovers, and there's just, I don't even know what to say. I had a hard time putting this book down. I just loved it so much. And I know I keep talking about the characters, but this is like one of those books where, or series really, because I felt this way about both of them, where I just felt like I knew the characters so intimately well, and I just like understood where they were coming from. And even when the 2 main characters were having like issues with each other, I myself was like so conflicted because I understood both of their point of views. And I just love when books can make you so invested in characters that you feel that way, that you're like emotionally torn because you don't know whose side you're really on. You're like on both of their sides and you just like want them to be happy and for all their problems to go away, but that's not gonna happen because that would make for a boring story. I just really love this series, at least the 2 books that are out. I'm so excited for the next one to come out, which probably won't be for like a year or whatever. But this YA series is one of my favorites that I've read in a really long time, so I definitely highly recommend it. Okay, let's move on. The next thing that I read in April was A Dead Djinn in Cairo by Djeli Clark. This is actually a short story that I ended up giving 3 stars, honestly, mostly because it was so short. There just isn't a lot to it. It is an adult urban fantasy that takes place in Cairo. I think a little bit set in the past, but it has a bit of like a steampunk setting too, I think, because I think they mention airships. Maybe they mention airships in the next like book in the series, but maybe a little steampunky. I don't know. The world is really interesting. There are Djinn in this world, obviously from the name of the short story. There was a dead Djinn, and there was also like something they call angels that they were dealing with in this book. I keep saying book. It's a short story. It's very short. It was like a 1-hour audiobook, which, by the way, I listened to on Scribd. The main character in this short story, her name was Fatma, I think, but she was a female detective, and it's a bit of like a murder mystery. She is investigating the death of this Djinn. I don't want to say too much about it. Like I said, it's really short, but basically I thought it was intriguing. I thought the world was really interesting, and I was down to see more. This is the first part of a series. The next thing that happens in the series is a novella, which I also read in April, but I will talk about later in this video. And both of those precede a novel that probably is out by now, and I was reading the short story and the novella in preparation to read that novel. Okay, moving on to the next thing that I finished in April, that would be Jade City by Fonda, which is the first book in the Greenbone saga, which I gave 4 out of 5 stars. This is an adult urban fantasy. I actually read this for my Patreon book club. If you want more information about my Patreon book club, I will link my announcement video, and also at the very bottom of my description box there's a link to my Patreon so you can see all the different tiers for the book club. So I mostly read this as an ebook and an audiobook. I own the ebook. I picked it up on an ebook sale a long time ago. I had a friend who let me borrow her audiobook copy because she said that the narrator was really good, and I totally agree. I listened to it mostly on audio, basically from 30% to the end. And I also did have a hardcover copy out from my library, but I didn't really read from it that much. Okay, what to say about Jade City? I feel like this one's a bit of a booktube darling, and while I enjoyed it, I don't think I loved it quite as much as some people. The world building in this one is pretty interesting. The magic in this world comes from people who can wear jade, and only certain people can wear jade. Like if you're born in the specific city or you're native to the city, then you can wear jade and it gives you like superpowers, basically, like makes you really strong and fast, and you can like not read people's thoughts, but like kind of feel their intentions sort of thing. But people who are not native to the city, if they wear jade or are exposed to it too much, they can kind of like go crazy, but it's also kind of like addictive. So the way the magic works and how the jade works was pretty interesting. It's not a very structured magic system or anything, which I'm not complaining about. I think that's fine. Magic doesn't always have to be structured. But it's kind of interesting how this jade, in one way, it was providing people with magic, quote unquote magic. They don't refer to it as magic in the book, but it is also kind of like a drug, and there are gangs involved. There's like 2 main gangs, and then like people in different neighborhoods pay tribute to whatever gang runs their neighborhood or offers them safety. So there was like that whole aspect, which was really interesting. So if you're interested in like gang politics and the whole like Asian inspiration part of it sounds interesting to you, I would definitely recommend checking this book out. I thought the gang politics was interesting. Can't say that it's like my favorite thing to read about. I don't know, I like politics, but I am really starting to think that like royalty politics is where it's at for me and not really necessarily other types of politics. As far as characters, there are a few characters that I enjoyed. All of the characters are kind of morally gray. I don't think you're really meant to love any of them, but there are some characters that I'm more interested than others. And there was one character that like I really did not like through most of the book, and then he started growing on me, and then like some things that he did at the end were a total turn off, and I was like, I don't like you anymore. So that was kind of interesting to, you know, it's always good when an author can make you feel things about characters, right? There were definitely some twists and turns and like things that surprised me. Not necessarily twists and turns, but events that happened in the book that I was not expecting, which is always fun. And yeah, I just overall, I enjoyed it, but I just didn't love it. There were a few choices the author made that I kind of wish she had made like different choices. Like I just thought other choices might have made for a more interesting story, or a story that would have been more interesting to me. But I'm still pretty satisfied with the way the book ended, and I'm intrigued enough to want to continue the series and see what the next book holds. I've heard from a few people that they enjoyed the next book, Jade War, more than the first one, so that is intriguing to me. Maybe I will be one of those people. And I think Jade Legacy, the third book, is coming out either later this year or early next year. I think it is available for pre-order now if you want to do that. But yeah, overall, I liked it. Didn't quite love it, but I want to know more, and I will hopefully be reading the sequel soon. Okay, and that brings me to the last thing that I read in April. Like I mentioned earlier, I read the novella that takes place in the same world as A Dead Djinn in Cairo, and that is The Haunting of Tramcar 15 by Djeli. What is the name of this series? The series is called Dead Djinn Universe, and the novel that is coming out on May 11th, so the novel will be coming out shortly after, or will already be out when this video goes up. And that one is called A Master of Djinn, which I plan on talking about because I do have an e-advanced reader copy of that, which is the whole reason why I read these two like prequel things. Anyways, A Haunting of Tramcar 15. This one's a little bit longer. It's a novella instead of a short story, but it's still really short. It's a 3-hour audiobook. I like squeezed this in the last day or two of April because I wanted one more thing to talk about in my April wrap up, and I was in the middle of 3 other chunky fantasies that I was not gonna finish in time. So I threw this one in at the end because, like I said, it was a 3-hour audiobook, which is also available on Scribd. That's how I accessed the audiobook. And I ended up giving this one 4 stars. I enjoyed it a little bit more than the first one. I mean, kind of hard to pinpoint exactly why, other than just that there was a little more to it. This one also is a bit of a mystery, not a murder mystery, but like there's a character who is not the same character as the one in the short story, who is investigating a haunted tramcar and trying to figure out why this tramcar is haunted and where the thing that is haunting it came from. And once again, I just thought that the world building was really cool. It's kind of unique and different. It's set in Cairo, in a part of the world that, you know, I'm not very familiar with, and there was talk about kind of like food from, you know, other places in the Middle East area. So it just has like this like unique feeling to me because I don't read a lot of books that are in that setting. I don't really know what else to say about it because, again, it was really short. This main character is a male detective that works for the same investigative government group that I'm blanking on the name of as the main character from the first one, and the main character from the first one does appear in the like epilogue at the very end, so they kind of like discuss their cases or whatever, so it ties it together. And I believe the main character from the first short story is the main character in the novel that comes next. I don't know if the main character from this novella is also in the novel, but I will tell you when I find out. But yeah, overall, it was entertaining. 3-hour audiobook. I listened to it pretty quickly, and I just think that the world is cool, and I want to know more about what happens in this world. So I will definitely be reading the novel that comes after this. Alright guys, I think that's all I have to say. Those are the 5 things that I read or picked up in the month of April. If you have read any of these books, let me know what you thought of them down in the comment section, or you can let me know what your favorite thing that you read in April was. If you like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel for more bookish content. That is all I have for now. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, bookworms, keep reading. Bye.